Hi, this is Dr. Scott, and today we're going to talk a little bit about how do you understand with hearing aids in noisy places. Okay, so people can get this struggle all the time. So they wear hearing aids, and I wear hearing aids as well. And there's a couple different, ideas. Number one, you can utilize app-based hearing aids. Now, I will talk about this, and we have all kinds of different app-based hearing aids. Some people are super uncomfortable with using that because it's just not their thing. I get it. You know, um, there are really good app-based hearing aids. There are really good, not as good app-based hearing aids, but better sounding for different noisy situations. Listen, there are all kinds of different things. We're going to do a lot of videos about some of those hearing aids, some of their advantages and disadvantages in there with it too. But more specifically here, what we want to talk about is just what you might do in that noisy situation. So, and it's funny because I've been using Grok to build some pictures on different things for a book, my 19th book that I'm writing right now. And it's kind of interesting working them through, Grok through the pictures with that stuff too. So here's a guy, just think of yourself, excuse me, you're in a restaurant and you are trying to listen, but there's a bunch of background noise behind you, right? And you say, what do I do? This is a very common issue for a lot of people. So, and trust me, I have been in that same circumstance too, and go, I can't hear as well in that noisy place. Number one, I want you to think about a couple things. Let's just say this person right here is kind of a noisy person, meaning she's kind of loud as she speaks. And I'm not talking about, we could say a man or a woman. It's not about men, women, whatever. It's about someone being noisy in their situation. They just are loud and boisterous in their personality. The person maybe that you're listening to, and that person's behind you, but yet they're so loud and the person in front of you isn't that loud. And you're sitting here like this going, man, all I hear is her and I don't hear my wife in front of me, kind of thing. And so this is a big issue for a lot of people. And so we struggle with that idea. So one of the things I want you to think about is that people will walk into a restaurant and you think, well, there's no way I can really help, if I sit in these seats in the restaurant. Well, number one, what I might consider is don't sit in the middle seats. Every time you sit more in the middle seats, now you have competing noise everywhere around you. One of the things that I tend to find if I was going to walk into this particular restaurant is I would find myself, do you see that this little section up here? Now, the ones by the window might not be as good because you could get a lot of road noise. So let's just say that's the front door and you're standing right here waiting for them to seat you, okay? And you're thinking, no, sometimes you go, well, I don't always have a choice. I understand, but you kind of do with a couple things. Now, if this was close to the edge, let's say there's one table over here, and this was the close to the edge, what I might do is I might sit here. I'd move myself right here in this area, and I'd want to have as many people behind me as possible because I'll really want as much people behind me because when you utilize hearing aids modes that they have inside the software, you can go inside, excuse me, inside of the app and be able to move this. What you're going to do is you're going to bring up an app, and inside of your app mode, and this is just in the Starkey one, and you can push the programs and go into the restaurant mode. And then you're going to move into, for instance, a noise situation. So this is the Starkey Edge, and you would push this and it turns kind of a pinkish purple with that. And so you would adjust that. Now, if it's very, very loud, you might turn that down a little bit, or if it's not loud enough that you can adjust that. But you might move that mode. So going back to that circumstance, you would sit right here get the people behind you so that you can focus on the people in front of you. Now, if you're struggling, and let's just say there's two people around here. Let's say that's your wife and that's your daughter, right? And your daughter is not speaking that loudly. Tell her, listen, tell her she's not speaking loudly. I'm not understanding you. Can you speak up a little bit more? Because sometimes, and listen, my son, as he was growing up, he didn't always want to speak loudly. I mean, he just, we had to work with him on his diction, had to work with him on his presentation. Kids don't always understand, right? And so if you're, for instance, if you have grandkids, really work with them. Hey, listen, I want to hear you. I want to understand what you're saying. And I'm going to pull me back. Understand what you're saying. Sorry. I want to understand what you're saying, but if you don't speak up, I'm not going to understand what you're saying, because your words, what you're talking about, is very important to me. So when you use that kind of thing, you're getting through to them. You don't put on all the onus and say you're not speaking right, you're just bad about this. But just say, I need you to speak up because I really value you. What you're saying is very important to me. And so you would position her maybe right here, and you're over here. Let's say your wife is speaking up and you're hearing her, but you're not understanding, the daughter, the granddaughter that is sitting over here, because she's just speaking in whatever she thinks is the right volume, and yet there's too much noise going on. And so that's another thing to think about. I want you to also think about is the time that you go. Now, many people think that it's kind of silly that older folks tend to go earlier to a restaurant. Man, I'll tell you what, I love going to a restaurant earlier. I don't want to go at 6 o'clock when the restaurant looks more like this and it's filled with a whole bunch of people. 6, 7 o'clock, that's kind of a silly time. When you go at the earlier times, like when you go to a restaurant at 10:30, 11, 10:45, 11, that's a lunchtime, but it's before everyone else is going to lunch, right? If you're going to a restaurant for dinner, sometimes I'll go, my wife and I will go like at 3:30 and 4. We kind of skip lunch, we're kind of having dinner, lunch kind of thing, right? And so we get the empty restaurants. We get a table really quickly. I can sit anywhere in this restaurant I want to, instead of fighting like this in those noisy places. Now, I'm still going to adjust my hearing aids depending on the circumstances. Now, I want to introduce something else to you here. In a restaurant just like this, there is another product that most of the manufacturers have, and it's called a table microphone. This little device here, you can actually set it in the middle of the table and then it can focus. So it has a volume control up and down, a little button, and the microphones are picking up the people at that area. Now, sometimes the manufacturers, some manufacturers charge a lot, a good $1,000, $1,500 for these. But other manufacturers charge a little bit less, so it depends upon the manufacturer. And so you can order this as an accessory. So it's called a table microphone. And I'm going to kind of write that down for you here so you can see what I'm talking about here. But you're going to look for a table microphone. Okay, so this kind of thing, that's what that is called, a table microphone. And you can find that, and then this little button just kind of shows that it's on. And then you might be sitting over here. So for instance, in that same restaurant, you would set it right here and you're hearing your people around you. So you turn that on and it's focusing on here and sending the signal directly from the device into your ears. And so you would then go, and you can always go in here into your app and adjust it with that too. So it's kind of cool. It's a really interesting idea to help you to understand depending upon the circumstance that you find yourself within. So I hope that gives you some ideas and some ways that you can think about the circumstance. Thanks so much.